Engineers, start your engines!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MCTylerT in the Fastlane. I, of course, am MCTylerT, aka Tyler Thomas, and we're here to talk about some sports. This is going to be a podcast, and if you looked at the title, you would think that's a NASCAR podcast, but this is all sports. We're going to talk about NASCAR, NBA, probably a little bit of baseball here and there sometimes. The World Series just ended, so that's cool. The Dodgers took it at home. I'm not going to talk about that in this podcast, but just an array of awesome stuff, sports, only sports, maybe some lifestyle thrown in there. Who knows? You know, we're just going to bring it in, maybe bring in some guests sometimes. But this is the first episode of MCTylerT in the Fastlane. We're going to upgrade the production very, very soon, camera, all this kind of stuff. But I just wanted to get this podcast out. When it comes to this podcast right now, NASCAR has 2 races from ending the season. We have Martinsville next, which ends the round of 8. And then we move to Phoenix, which is the round of 4. And the winner of that, or the winner, the highest point getter from that race, takes home the NASCAR Cup Series Championship. And it's going to be awesome. But we're going to recap the news from today, So let's get started. First piece of news coming up from today, Kyle Larson, driver who has had an immense amount of success in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's had some personal issues that caused him to lose his job at Chip Ganassi Racing. But right now, as it stands, he has been confirmed to be driving the number 5 Hendrick car, which is taking the place of the 88, which Alex Bowman used to drive. And now Alex Bowman has moved on to the 48 car. It's awesome for Kyle Larson, in my opinion. I think that I really do think that he's genuinely learned from his mistake. As a person who stands with the African-American community and stands with, people of diverse races and stands with them instead of standing in opposition of them, I understand that we all know that Kyle Larson made a mistake. He said a word that no person should utter. It's disgusting. It's an awful act. And he paid for it. He paid. I believe that we're here. We're in a place where he's done counseling. He's done training. And he's clawed his way back. He's won so many races outside of NASCAR during that time that I think it's time for him to get his second chance. I think it's pivotal for people to be able to be forgiven, to be able to have the second chance. And I think that's him right now. I think that he's going to come in. He's going to be partnered with Cliff Daniels, who is the crew chief currently of Jimmy Johnson, who is retiring and moving to IndyCar next year. So Kyle Larson coming back to the 5 car, partnering with Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, William Byron. It's going to be a huge, huge, huge acquisition for Hendrick. It's going to be an awesome scene. We'll see how it works out. We'll see how it goes. Moving on to the race that happened, well, it was supposed to happen Sunday, and then it was supposed to happen Monday, and then it was supposed to happen Tuesday, but it finally happened today, Wednesday. Texas Motor Speedway. Kyle Busch ended up taking the victory. A lot of things going on in that race. Martin Truex Jr. almost getting the victory, sealing his playoff spot. Denny Hamlin having trouble. Chase Elliott having pit road trouble, which has been the theme of his year so far. Dominant races. He's led so many laps, but comes down to it when he has a good car. Something happens on pit road. He's not able to get that position back. He wasn't able to stay as the number 1 person lap down. There wasn't any caution, so he wasn't able to get that lucky dog back. So, hard race for a lot of people. But Kyle Busch ends up getting his first win of the year, which I'm sure for the 18 team, that's huge morale. Not a playoff implication win. He's not in the playoffs anymore. So you look at it, he got his win. Kyle Busch is one of the greats of the sport. I think he's one of the greatest drivers of all time. Finally got his victory. Texas Motor Speedway has been a great spot for races. A lot of great finishes, a lot of good races. Looking into it, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski are all above the cut line right now. Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott, 42 points behind the cutoff, while Truex is 53 back, and Kurt Busch, the brother of Kyle Busch, who won the race, is 98 back. The only person that has locked in a spot so far is Joey Logano, and that's going to be huge. So right now, if the playoffs ended right now, it would be Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski. Now, Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick combining for 16 wins so far this season. That's almost half of the races run this season, so huge. They've got a lot of momentum going in. Joey Logano's been running great. Brad Keselowski's been picking it up. It's going to be an awesome, awesome, awesome playoffs. If I were to make my prediction now, I think it goes into next week, and none of the teams below the cutoff are able to make it. I think it's going to be Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski. And you look to Phoenix, I think I have to give the edge to Kevin Harvick there, someone who has been so dominant in Phoenix over his career. I just have to give the edge to Kevin Harvick there. I think he pulls it out. I think he makes his 10th win there, and he gets a title. But I project that the next 2 races are going to be huge for different teams. A lot of interesting things going on next season. Bubba Wallace moving on. I think it's going to be huge for a lot of teams' morales, getting some races under their belts, getting some work done. But I think the next 2 races for NASCAR are going to be huge. We're going to crown a champion in the next race or 2. Be on the lookout for that. It's going to be exciting. But moving on, we are now moving on to a sport that is it's going strong right now. It's some great games, some great scores. We're going to move on to the NFL. And we're going to do a recap. Then we're going to do a bit of a preview. Looking at the games, we had the Eagles beating the Giants last few seconds. The Eagles were able to come back on the Giants. Let's be honest, both of those teams are very, very, very underwhelming. The Eagles basically playing their practice squad. The Giants having a lot of work to do in the front office, a lot of work to do on the field, a lot of developing to do. A lot of work to be done for both of those teams. Daniel Jones with a huge 80-yard touchdown where he almost tumbled over himself, or he did tumble over himself. Would have gotten a touchdown if he was able to keep his balance. Moving on next, we're going to talk about the Lions and the Falcons. The Falcons had the game won, they pushed down the field, and Todd Gurley decided he wanted some fantasy points and decided to hop into the end zone. Matt Ryan was not happy about it from the looks of it, but the Lions were able to get down the field, and on the last second, Matt Stafford threw an underarm, like a softball type throw to Hawkinson. And he was able to pick it up. They were able to win the football game there. The Falcons are laughably bad at this point. The way the Falcons choose to lose football games is just laughable at this point. I mean, you look back, 28-3 up in the Super Bowl. Then you go to the Chicago Bears game this year. They've got the lock. The Cowboys game this year, they've got the lock. And then now the Falcons losing to the Lions in such a devastating way. One thing I want to talk about that game is there are 2 things, actually. Kenny Golladay is a top 10 receiver in the league. And I won't hear any debate about it. I don't think there's guys in the league that are able to make some of the catches that he makes. Gets inside. He's able to get over people. He's able to burn people. He's just such a well-rounded wide receiver. But that's why I don't call him underrated, because I genuinely think that, like, if people look down, they sat down, they put a piece of paper in front of them, and they said, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And they got around to 8 to 9 to 10. Golladay is going to be in those lists. I don't understand how he wouldn't be. I just think he's insane. But also Matthew Stafford. This may be one of my hot takes for the podcast. He's a Hall of Famer. He's, in my opinion, one of the greatest throwers of football this sport has seen. And he's proved it year in and year out. He's been a great, consistent athlete. They're 3-3. They're in a very good division, so that 3-3 may not matter. They're playing solid football. And so look out for the Lions. Just keep them in the back of your mind. Moving on with the Browns and the Bengals. Now, what a phenomenal football game this was. Back and forth, down to the wire. There were 34 points scored in the fourth quarter. My biggest takeaways from this game is that Joe Burrow is that guy. He is a solid NFL quarterback. He comes in. He is worth the first pick in the draft that they took with him. He is that guy. I've never seen a rookie be able to read a defense like Joe. I've never seen a rookie be able to fit the ball inside the hands. It's like he gifts it to the receivers. I've never seen a quarterback in his rookie year be able to just put the ball where Joe puts it. And we saw that at LSU. We saw he was, a lot of people said things like, oh, he had Jamar Chase, he had Terrace Marshall, he had Justin Jefferson, he had all kinds of other people, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But let's talk about it. Joe Burrow was putting that ball in places that no LSU quarterback had ever put them. Joe Burrow was putting those balls in places that no college football quarterback has ever put them. I mean, it's extremely arguable, and it's extremely close to true. I mean, it's hard to argue against the fact that he had the greatest college football season of any athlete ever. And that game has translated so much to the NFL. I mean, 35 for 47, 406 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Browns. Joe kept them in that game. Joe kept them where he needed to be. It was the defense that gave it up. But Baker Mayfield was also perfect. And Baker Mayfield was off and on. I'm not going to talk much about him, but he's incredible in the red zone so far this season. I don't think he's thrown a single red zone interception, and I think he's got some stupid amount of touchdowns in the red zone. He's been great in the red zone. The Browns 5-2, they're looking really good. I don't think that they're going to be able to beat the Steelers ever. And so I think the Steelers are going to win that division. But, I mean, you've also got the Ravens in that division. So that division is stacked. Moving on, we got the Steelers and Titans. And a game that started off the first half was the Steelers all the way weren't allowing the Titans to do anything. But I'm going to talk about this, and a lot of people may disagree, but I thought the refereeing in that first half was a little bit underwhelming. And it's a theme across the NFL that I see that I have to talk about it. I mean, the referees, It's not a bias. They're just not doing their jobs well enough. Well, it's not a bias. I just genuinely think they're not doing their jobs well enough. You look all across the board, pass interference calls that shouldn't have been, plays that shouldn't have been called, but they call them all across the board. And I think that's a lot of what was happening in the Titans-Steelers first half. But once the Titans got their game going, they dominated the second half. 17-3 was the second half score. Just at the end, Ryan and Tannehill and the Titans weren't able to get it done. What a great game. A.J. Brown is going to be a top 5 receiver in the league soon. Tannehill is playing out of his mind. Those are both two really good teams that are going to make it far into the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that matchup as a rematch in the AFC Championship game. I would not be surprised. Moving on, we got my home team, the New Orleans Saints versus the Carolina Panthers. Drew Brees having an insanely awesome game, putting the ball in places that he, all of his career he's been able to put it there. Alvin Kamara just cutting up the defense. I believe he had over 150 all-purpose yards. He was insane. DJ Moore, who doesn't usually do insane things, again, has a huge touchdown in the Superdome against the Saints. And him and Teddy Bridgewater, let's talk about him. He's good. He's not that guy that's going to make flashy plays. He's not that guy who's going to wow you with his athleticism. But he's that guy who's going to win. He's going to win football games. He is a winner. 5-0 in his time in New Orleans. 3-4 so far. He's a winner. That team's got a lot to work on, the Panthers. But I think Teddy Bridgewater's a winner. I think he's great. That team looks better than people ever would have given them credit for. I think teams probably put them in the top 5 pick in the draft. They're going to be competing for a wild card spot. With the Falcons not doing any good, there may be 2 wild card spots in the NFC South this year. Moving on, we got the Bills and the Jets. I really don't want to talk about this game too much. Josh Allen, he's great, but he's not looking the same. There are some things that are off. He's still got a lot to work on, but he's great. He's great. The Jets put up their biggest fight of the year. I think the Bills have a lot to work on his team. I don't think they'll make it far in the playoffs, but they will win that division because the Patriots are awful. They will win that division. The Jets are going to go 0-16. I don't think they have it in them to win a football game this year. I really hope that Trevor Lawrence decides not to go to the draft because I'm going to say this, and anyone who listens who's a Jets fan, I only have one friend that's a Jets fan. Sorry, Tommy, for this call, but if you go to the Jets, that is, what's the word I'm looking for? The Jets are, let's think about it this way. The Jets are the Arby's of the NFL. They're not good in any way. Nothing. Nothing about them is good. Their front office bad. The players bad. Sam Darnold and Quinnen Williams are their only bright spots. I firmly believe that the Jets are they're just not a good organization. They're not good for player development. They're not good for incoming players. You saw that with Le'Veon Bell. You've seen that with a bunch of other people. They're just not a good organization. And as much as we want to promote New York sports, and that's supposed to be the pinnacle, you look at New York sports, the Giants, the Jets, the Knicks. To me, that just signals that they're a name. New York's a name. It's a big market. If I'm a player, I can't see myself going to the New York Jets and thinking, wow, my career is going to skyrocket. I'm going to get the best development possible. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Moving on, Bucks Raiders. 45-20 was the score. Tom Brady. This is another hot take. He's the MVP right now. And I think he's playing the best football, some of the best football of his career. He's fitting so well in this offense. Scotty Miller has been super awesome. He's got that short slot guy who's a consistent catcher again, just like Julian Edelman, just like Wes Welker. He's got that guy again. And you've got so many other, Gronkowski's playing great. You got so many other weapons. The Buccaneers may just be the best team in football. It's possible. You can make the argument. And they're adding Antonio Brown, who was a all-consensus best wide receiver in the league for years. I think they're the best team in football. And that's coming from a Saints fan. It's going to be interesting. Moving on, Chiefs Broncos. Patrick Mahomes didn't even need to do anything. He just ran the ball down their throats. 43-16, snow game. Here's my way too early Super Bowl prediction. Are you guys ready? And this isn't an official prediction. This is just more like something I could definitely see happening. The Chiefs Buccaneers would be an awesome Super Bowl. It'd be a high-scoring Super Bowl, but it'd be awesome. Moving on, I want to touch on this game just a little bit. The 49ers Patriots was the worst football game I've ever watched in my life. I don't think the Patriots know that they're playing football. It was really bad. It was just really bad. And the 49ers, they're 4-3, but they're the worst 4-3 team I've ever seen in my life. And that's not their fault. I mean, their injury list is bigger than their roster. They've got a lot of work to do. Jimmy Garoppolo's got a lot of work to do. 20 for 25, but he's got 2 picks. His decision-making's got to work. He's got to work it out. But for having a second-string practice squad in playing starting roles, I think that the 49ers are better than they should be. But they're just not there, especially in a division where you've got the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. All three of those teams are good. I just don't see it for the 49ers. Moving on, I'm going to skip this game. I'm just going to say the score. 39-29, Chargers-Jaguars. Both of these teams are developmental teams, both with developmental quarterbacks. Herbert is doing great. Minshew's having his issues, but has shown flashes in both last season and this season of being great. So, I mean, that's just that. Both those teams, they're not killing us with talent. Next game, Washington versus Dallas, 25-3 for Washington. I feel so bad for the Cowboys, and I hate the Cowboys. Let's rephrase that. I don't hate the Cowboys. I dislike Cowboys fans. Let's go with that. I feel like they're more of a bandwagon fan. You see way too many people. Oh, I'm a Cowboys fan, and pulled for the Lakers. Go Lakers. You just see too many people like that. So Kyle Allen looked great. Antonio Gibson's really putting it on. And then Terry McLaurin is just really good. The Cowboys, without Dak, and I'm one of Dak's biggest fans. I think he's so good. And it's showing now, looking how bad their team is as a whole. When you lose your starting quarterback, when your team starts talking about, oh, well, our coaches aren't doing their jobs. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. When you see that, I can't take the validity of that team. And then once you lose your quarterback, it's like, what can you do? What is there to do? I feel so bad for them. I feel so bad for Dak having to watch this. Andy Dalton, he almost died. And just if you want my opinion, that was a dirty hit, and it should be a suspension, at least a game. And I'm all for violence in football. I call it liberal football, but that's not really what it is. I'm all for violence in football. And I don't like the way that the sport is going as far as this hits wrong, this, and that. He went for his head. That's a dirty play. It was very reminiscent of Joe Flacco, Kiko Alonso. And when I watched the Joe Flacco, Kiko Alonso play, I genuinely thought that in that helmet that was rolling was Joe Flacco's detached head. I really thought that guy had died. Andy Dalton play was so reminiscent of that. It is football, though. And you go out there and you put that on the line. I think it deserves a suspension. People are talking about a ban. That's ridiculous. But a suspension, a game, 2, I think that will be fine. What do you think the Washington football team should call their team? You think they should keep the Washington football team? I'm not going to lie to you guys. I kind of think it's awesome. They don't have a name. They're just Washington. They represent the state. They represent Washington, D.C., where the president lives. They're that team. I think it's pretty cool. Comment what you think the name should be. Comment if you think they should change it. Comment if you think they shouldn't have changed it. But don't start a political argument in my comments, please. Please. Next game, Packers, Texans. Devontae Adams is back. That's what I can say. 13 receptions, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's back. This was a Aaron Rodgers revenge game like no other. Blew the doors off Houston. Then we're going to move to one of the greatest football games I've ever watched in my young life. Arizona Cardinals 37, Seahawks 34 in overtime. Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns, but also threw 3 interceptions, 3 costly interceptions. Let's talk about Kyler Murray. He's butting into a top 5 quarterback in the league. And I don't think anyone can debate that. He has it. He has the strength. He has the wherewithal. He has the throwing ability. He has the running ability. He has the smarts. He's got it. Just so sneakily, that team's 5-2. Him and DeAndre Hopkins have worked so well. Kenyon Drake's become a solid running back. I think the Cardinals have a legit chance to win that division. I think they are way better than people say they are, and I think they genuinely have a chance to win that division, especially since the Seahawks are so anemic on defense without Jamal Adams. And even with Jamal Adams in the lineup, there's just not much one person can do versus 11 other football players. There's just not much that he can do. And I firmly believe Jamal Adams is a top 5 defensive player in this league. But there's just not much he can do on his own. And so when he's in the game, he's such a changer. But when he misses games, you see they give up 37 points. Now, they did give up 37 points to a high-octane offense who has been working on all. They got Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk. They've got DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is 6 offensive players in his own. He's the best receiver in football. All my Saints fans are going to say Michael Thomas, and I was on that train. I was full force. Michael Thomas is the best wide receiver in football, but DeAndre Hopkins just has something different. He's just got it different. And that's it. That's just the truth. Moving on to the next game, we have the Rams and the Bears. Now, I'm going to say it. I think the Bears are pretenders. I think they're pretenders. They have a negative 2-point differential and a 5-2 record. I think they're pretenders. I think Nick Foles, I know he's a great guy, good Christian. I love him to death, love his family. He's terrible. He's just not good. And people keep hyping him up because he wins football games. But at some point, you have to look at a person and the plays that he makes, and you have to understand that he's just not good at the game of football. You had that one game against the Patriots in that random game in February where he, caught that touchdown pass. We're not going to talk about what game that was. It was just a random game, right? The Super Bowl, no big deal. I'm just kidding. He had a great game. He'll always have that. At some point, he's just not it. I mean, look at Cam Newton. He's not it either, and he's been to a Super Bowl too. MVP. At some point, players just aren't it. For the Rams, I think they're great. I need more out of Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff's got to do more as a player. He's got to make less mistakes. Jared Goff's the type of player that just makes dumb throws. He throws balls that he shouldn't. And so he's got a lot of work to do. But the Rams are good. They're just as good as they were. They're not Super Bowl quality. But they're just as good. They're good enough to win the division. That division is insane. But if I were to make my way too early prediction, right? I think the Rams have a good matchup against the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals have a good matchup against the Seahawks. And I think the Seahawks have a good matchup against the Rams. So that division is going to be so much fun. I can't predict who's going to win it. All right, we're going to do quick pick'ems. It's not going to be a super long pick'ems. I'm not going to get into too much detail. I'm just going to tell you who I think is going to win and why. Panthers-Falcons, I think the Falcons are going to laughably throw this one away. Or either it's going to be a Panthers decisive victory. I think Ted Bridgewater is too good. That Falcons defense is anemic with all the injuries and stuff, and they drafted the worst quarterback in the draft in Terrell. I think they've got a lot of work to do. The Falcons. I think the Panthers take it. Move to 4-4. Moving on to the next game, Patriots-Bills. I think the Patriots are terrible, but I just feel like this is a very winnable game for them. The Bills statistically have never performed well against the Patriots and Bill Belichick, and while I think that may have had a lot to do with Tom Brady, I still think that's there. And so, this is my hot take. I'm going to go Patriots. I'm going to say Patriots take a disgustingly awful football victory. It's going to be a terrible football game. I think the Patriots take it. I think Josh Allen has a down game against Stephon Gilmore. I just think it's not going to work out. Next game, Titans-Bengals. This is a game I know who's going to win. The Titans are going to win. But let's talk about it. Joe Burrow is going to do great. But Joe Burrow he's like a Ferrari in the worst part of town. Or if you want to think about it this way, Joe Burrow is like a premium New York City deep dish pizza in a box with Little Caesars. He's that guy. He's wonderful. He's great. He's going to have a great game, but they're going to lose because he just can't. This isn't college, right? And I don't think he could have done that in the SEC. But there are a lot of quarterbacks that come into the NFL that they single-handedly gave their teams the win just how good they are. You can't do that in the NFL. There's not a single quarterback that's ever done that. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, but there's no quarterback that could just give their team the win. And so I've got the Titans. I've got the Titans pretty decisively, actually, probably like a 37 to like a 20. And there's just, look at their front. Look at their defense. Look at their front. Jadeveon Clowney. I think the Bengals. I think they get worked, and I think Joe gets a little lesson, learns how to do against a good front four. I think it's a beneficial game for Joe, but he's gonna throw a couple interceptions. He just can't. There's not much he can do. And I want that narrative. I want that narrative thrown out so much. I want that narrative to spread like wildfire. So many times, and this I'm going off a rant here, and allow me to do that. So many times in the NFL media, we just look at things that happen and we throw away these quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is one of the greatest examples. Some of the throws that guy makes are mind-boggling. But for some reason, we think he's terrible because of an offensive line. That he's running away from the ball. He's running away from death. And Joe Burrow, look at all the sacks. Look at all the quarterback hits. And he's still putting up 400, 300 yards. He's 1-5, but he's the best player on the team. And it's not even close. We just need to put more respect on Joe Burrow. He deserves all of it. Moving on to the next game. The Titans win that one. Moving on to the next game, Browns-Raiders. I think the Raiders are good. I think the Raiders put a fight against the Browns, but I think the Browns just have too much talent to lose. They lost Odell, but they've still got talent around them. I think the Browns take it like a 28-20 game. Not a lot. I think it's an average offensive performance from both teams, But I just think it's like a normal football game. I don't think anything spectacular happens in that game. 28-20 Browns. We've got Colts Lions. This is a tale of a high working offense versus a high working defense. The Colts defense is great, and I've really been impressed with the Lions offense. I think the Colts take this one in a 21-14, 21-17 type game. It's probably higher scoring than that. The scores have been trailing high, but I'll definitely go Colts in that fight. But I think the Lions are better than people say they are. But I think the Colts are better than people say they are too. You got a really good defense, and that's an extremely winnable division. I've got Colts. Vikings Packers. I just don't see a world where Aaron Rodgers doesn't flame the defense of the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings have been trying to beat Aaron Rodgers for years. It's in Lambeau Field. It's supposed to be 40 degrees outside. I've got the Packers. I think it's decisive. 45-10. I think it's very decisive. The Vikings have a lot of work to do. Jets Chiefs. I've got the Jets. I'm just kidding. Chiefs easy. I don't think the Jets even bring a competition. Fair day, sunny, 50 degrees outside. I think Patrick Mahomes throws 500 yards, and I'm not exaggerating. I genuinely think that he may just do something insane. I think the Jets are going 0-16, like I said. So look into it. Rams Dolphins the next game. This is a game that it's in Miami. It's 85 degrees and rainy in Florida. I think the Dolphins have the advantage. While I think the Rams are really good, I just think the Dolphins are just gritty. They play good football. The only issue I have, and this is, if the Rams are going to win this game, it's because Tua doesn't play to his potential. And that's very possible. He's new. He's a rookie. They took him out for someone who was playing great football. And I'm not going to give my opinion on that. I understand why they did it. They want to get their rookie in, good playing time. I think the Dolphins have a very winnable football game here. But if I were to put money on it, which I'm not a betting man, if I were to put money on it, I'd say Rams. But I think the Dolphins could very well win it. My official prediction for this game, I'm not going to put a score on it. Rams. Moving on, we got Steelers-Ravens. I think this is a Steelers all day. Lamar Jackson has showed that he hasn't got the mental ability to play against good football teams yet. He's one of the most athletic, gifted players in the NFL, and I think he's a top 5 quarterback. But he just doesn't have that yet. And so I think the Steelers win this one in Baltimore. It fires up the Ravens. The Ravens start playing better football, and that division's a better fight. But I think the Steelers go 7-0. I think this is a 28-20 game. 28-21. Chargers-Broncos. I think the Chargers win this one. I just don't see anything from the Broncos. They just, that's just a troubled franchise. Ever since the Super Bowl against the Panthers, it's just been a downward trend after Peyton Manning, looking for quarterbacks, trying to find their guy. And I think Drew Lock is good, but I just don't think he's there. And I think Justin Herbert is playing great football. I think the Chargers take this one, but I think it's a close game. 38-30. 38-31. Saints-Bears, this is going to be a tough game for the Saints. It's in Chicago, 43 degrees outside. The Bears, they're playing good defense. They're doing a lot of things well. I think they're pretenders. And I feel, the Saints' defense has been anemic this year. They've been terrible. I think this is the game where the Saints always have these games in October and November where they prove that everything that they've done this season has just been useless. Defense was bad. Well, the defense is going to be good this week. We have the most hit-or-miss defense in the NFL, and I think it's going to hit this week. I've got the Saints 35-10 over the Bears, and I don't think that's a biased pick. I think the Saints' offense is clicking in a way that it hasn't clicked all season, and I think the Bears' offense is not good, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think the defense for the Saints is going to be the difference. Having so many chronic bad games back to back to back, but finally playing an offense that's just not there. I think the Saints take it. Seahawks 49ers. Seahawks defense has been bad, but I think that the difference with this is that the 49ers are so injured they just don't have enough power. I think this is a blowout. I think it's a 42-10, 45-10 blowout. I think I just don't see the 49ers having a way of. I don't see the 49ers having a chance to victory. Moving on, Cowboys and Eagles, the worst Sunday night football game I've ever seen in my life. Both of these teams are terrible. The Eagles are playing the guys from the Burger King down the street. They signed them because they needed more players. The Cowboys are they're rough. These games for me always seem, every time that I give a prediction, These games always seem to just be so low-scoring and gritty football. I've got the Eagles here 15-10. I don't think the Cowboys were able to score on offense, and I don't think the Eagles were able to score on offense. I don't think the Cowboys were going to be able to score on offense the rest of the season. I think their offense it's bottle-capped. They don't have the same offensive line. Zeke's not the same. And if they don't have a quarterback to get it out to Amari, they don't have a quarterback to get it out to Michael Gallup, I don't think they're going to be able to score that many points. 15-10 Eagles. I can't see that this game going any more points than that. I just don't see that from either of these offenses. Moving on, Buccaneers-Giants on a Monday. I think this game's going to be closer than people expect. I still think the Buccaneers are going to win by 20. But I'd say 38-20. Make it 18 points. 38-20 Bucks. I think the Giants score some. The Bucs defense has it's been great, but I think the Giants pull off some points. I mean, sometimes they just put up points, and I think this is one of those games, especially on a Monday night. I think they put up points. 38-20 is my score. 38-17. The Bucs win it decisively, but I think it's closer than people are giving them credit for. All right, let's talk about LSU football for a bit, and this will be a last topic for this episode. LSU football, terrible start of the season with a defense that didn't show any adjustments. But last game against South Carolina, TJ Finley from Ponchatoula, true freshman, comes in. He plays phenomenal football. Comes in and he's insane. He makes good reads. He makes good decisions. He had one bad throw. He was awesome. When we win decisively, our defense even played well. I think the whole defense rallied around TJ, and I think the whole team looked better around TJ. And look, I love Miles. I think he's great. I think Miles Brennan is great. I think he's awesome. And I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, this guy's doing what we play him. Like, I know you got your starter, and you camp for this guy. But if I'm at Orgeron, I have to look at how my team played. My defense played energetic football. My offense was able to do more than they've been able to do all season. I think you have to look at TJ Finley versus Miles Brennan. And it's not because either of them are more talented than the other. I think the team played better, rallied around TJ Finley. But LSU versus Auburn this week. Auburn's looked very, very, very underwhelming. Auburn was my initial pick to win the national championship this year. I thought all those recruits they had coming in, and then Bo Nix on his sophomore season, I thought he was going to be able to make that leap. But in my opinion, he's actually done the opposite. So I think LSU has a chance of victory this week, but I'm not going to predict that because I have no idea what defense is going to show up. For the first 3 games, Bo Pelini's defense didn't make a single adjustment. They brought out the same thing every time. When one thing worked, they never changed it. We're going back to the well because we want to make this work, but it didn't. I mean, the guy we allowed 600 passing yards to from Mississippi State isn't even their starter anymore. Or if he is, he's been benched a couple times. So look, I'm not going to predict for LSU. I have no idea what this team is going to do this year. But one thing I do know is that COVID-19 has changed the dynamic of football around everything. And that LSU has been hit by it. We lost Jamar Chase. We lost all kinds of people. People opting out. If you're an LSU fan and you look at all these recruits that we've got, Eric Gilbert, we've got so many people, Elias Ricks, you have to look at LSU and just think, man, we've got a good future. Let this year go. Let this year be what it is. Let this 8-game season be what it is. Let it be. And then we go strap right up. We strap our chin straps up, and we go into a regular season of football next year with all of our 5-star recruits. We've got them in the game. We've got them boot camped ready. We've got that team going. And we make a statement. We make a stand. LSU makes a stand. Look out for them next year. But this year, just let it be. Let it be if you're an LSU fan. Let it be. Take the Beatles' word for it. Let it be. It's not going to be pretty. This season, we may go 4-4. We may go 3-5. But let it be. This season doesn't need to be anything other than what it is. We just won a natty. 15-0. I see so many LSU fans just riding off this team like we just had the greatest football season of all time. Let it be. Let it be. LSU fans around the world, if you're listening to me, if for some reason this clip has gotten to you, I implore you. I implore you. Let it be. They choose TJ over Miles Brennan. Let it be. They choose Miles Brennan over TJ. Let it be. So much potential on this team. So much firepower. The coaching staff hasn't even gotten a full camp to do it. Let it be. I want to thank you all, if you've made it this far, for listening. I want to thank, and if you haven't made it this far, thank you too, for just clicking on it. I'm going to make this show a lot more often. Every week I'm going to have an episode, maybe 2 starting sometime soon. Thank you guys for listening. This has been In the Fast Lane with MCTylerT.